time. Considering this fact, and that the awareness of rights against sexual harassment is still low across the working woman, she chooses to get certified as a POSH consultant. Ankakshar Consulting Private Limited is a sister concern of CSI Manohar Prabhu and Company Chartered Accountants. It is majorly into compliance consulting relating to POSH, internal financial controls and related documentation, compliance health checks of businesses, accounts outsourcing, and MIS reporting. She is closely associated with firms doing company registrations and into legal and secretarial services. She was a program and an operational senior analyst at Accenture in India from July 2014 till December 2020. She was majorly into program and operations analysis, which included information security, data analytics, which was certified Tableau developer as well. And she is also a certified Reiki practitioner and an abstract artist by hobby. Her educational qualifications are FCA, Certified Tableau Developer, MCOM, and BCom. With this short introduction, I welcome you, madam, to our session, and I thank you for accepting our invite. And over to you.
Just a minute, Madam Aishwarya. Before that, if we just request Jitu, if you can just share your thoughts before we commence with ma'am. Also request everyone, if you can just put on your videos, that will be great if you can see your faces, all your smiling faces. Everyone, not only committee members, but everyone. We just wanted to see how you all look.
Thank you, Kaushik. Thank you. It's feel wonderful to see 5 webinars to start with this week. It's great start by the new team, new committee, taking over the charge right away, starting with 5 webinars straight with. Not only 5 webinars, out of which 2 seminars also. So I wish all the best to the new team. And also just one thing, as Kaushik Bhai said, that our branch is so vibrant and so geographically located, and this time every committee member is also organizing various seminars in their location also. Now that's a big thing. So I congratulate all of you, all committee members, for this initiative too, and wishing you all the best, and wishing you all the best for this learning session also. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Jitu. Yes, Aishwarya, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much for the grand introduction. I would like to start the session. I'll just share my screen. Yes, so basically to start with, firstly, I would like to tell what POSH means. So POSH basically is means prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. And my tagline for the same is stand up and speak out. Prevention, prohibition, and redressal. Hi, I'm CA Aishwarya Prabhu. I am here to train you on the topic of POSH for the next 90 minutes. With the rise of the concept of gender equality and women's empowerment in the workplace, the number of cases of sexual harassment has risen dramatically over time. Considering this fact and that the awareness of rights against sexual harassment is still low across all genders, especially women, I chose to get certified as a POSH consultant. Now, why POSH? Like everybody has their own story. Like when we choose our career paths or when we choose any particular thing where we want to work in, we have some story or we have some motivation or we have some incidents which triggers you to choose that path. So in my case, I would like to share a small incidents which happened with me in the year 2017. Like I was working with a MNC then, and that time, like it was a Monday morning, and I had logged down early. Like I used to log in at 8:30, so I had logged early and I was working. And my manager always used to log in at around say 12 o'clock in the in the afternoon, and he used to say sit late nights. But that day, what happened is at around 9 a.m. I received a ping on my laptop, like on my Teams, and like my manager was a bit worried, so like he wanted to have a quick call with me and understand a few things. So then I took the call, and then my manager started inquiring to me about one of my close colleagues who I used to work with daily for certain reporting. He was asking me that when was the last time when I saw her online, and when was the last time I communicated with her, and what was the communication all about. So I was getting a bit nervous that why is my manager asking me such private questions, or might be such questions about my colleague, and she was not online that time. So then, because of some inquisitiveness, I just asked him that, okay, what is the matter? Like, I think she was on leave last weekend, like she had a long weekend. So I think might be she had extended her leave. So, but what was the issue that he was continuously bombarding me with questions in with respect to her? And then what he told me, like, it shattered me. It shook my world. I was into pieces, and he just communicated that my close colleague, like with whom I used to talk daily, she had committed a suicide. She had hung herself to a ceiling fan, and once her husband left for the office, and she had committed a suicide, and she is no more. So that time, it was really a major setback for me, because I used to talk with her daily, and I was not aware that what she was going through. Despite of talking with her every day on the calls, I was not aware that what stress she was going through. And that time I realized, like after the case, there was a case which took place, and there was an inquiry which took place, in which each member of our team was like asked few questions and inquired, and then we came to know through like official sources that she was facing sexual harassment in the office, though it was not from our immediate team. But yes, she was undergoing sexual harassment, and though like we all were aware that yeah, we could raise our voice, still somewhere she was not that confident, or she was not that brave, and she just succumbed to the pressure and she committed a suicide. Now this really made me think that despite of being a chartered accountant, and despite of being so bold, despite of living in a metropolitan city, women do take such steps, drastic steps, where they think of ending their lives and they commit suicides, or might be they leave their jobs, they sit back home, might be some events make them very depressed. So I thought that why not educate women, and why not educate every gender about their rights when they face sexual harassment at workplace. We'll start with watching a beautiful video here, which will take us directly into the subject. The audio, like, are you able to listen the audio of the video?
रविवार की सुबह
Yes, ma'am.
या मंगलवार
Okay.
या बुधवार, रोज की कहानी है। मैं अपना काम कर रही थी।
अरे बीवी, एक गिलास पानी तो पीने दे।
और तभी साहब को प्यास लगी। और भाई, पानी पीने का असली मजा तो शेल्फ में ऊपर रखे हुए ग्लास से ही आता है। वहां लखनऊ में आज की दोपहर थोड़ी अलग है।
क्या बात है डिम्पल जी, आजकल आपके गाल जो है ना वो टमाटर की तरह लाल लाल हो गए हैं। वैसे पिंक ड्रेस में आपको देखकर ना दिल खुश हो गया है। आप एक काम करो, आप हमारे दिल का ख्याल रखो, हम आपकी प्रमोशन का ख्याल रख लेंगे।
अजी, नौकरी इनकी बदौलत है तो इतना बोलने का हक तो बनता है ना। और ये देखिए, आज की शाम इस छोटे से गांव में कितनी खूबसूरत है इन जनाब के लिए।
अरे बहुत मेहनत करती है तू। कल से काम बंद कर दूंगा तेरा, और दूसरे ठेकेदार के यहाँ भी काम नहीं मिलेगा।
पूरा दिन इतनी लगन से मेहनत करती हूँ तो लाला जी सराहना तो करेंगे ही ना। आप सोच रहे होंगे ना ये सब मैं आपको क्यों बता रही हूँ, क्योंकि कभी किसी को बताने की हिम्मत नहीं होती। अगर हिम्मत करके बता भी दूं तो कोई विश्वास नहीं करता, और अगर कोई विश्वास कर भी ले तो साथ नहीं देता।
एक सुरक्षित कार्यस्थल हर महिला का अधिकार है और हम सबकी जिम्मेदारी है। इन्हें हिम्मत दें, इन पर विश्वास करें, इनका साथ दें।
Yes. So this was the video, and this is the starting point of our session today. That women in all women in all the areas, be it domestic maids, be it women working in corporates, be it women in the village remote areas of India, they face sexual harassment. This is the sad reality today. For today, what the coverage of the today's session is, first I will introduce you how POSH originated. Then what is workplace sexual harassment, its meaning. Then prevention and prohibition, redress mechanism, and penalties for the same. Does anybody know who this lady is in the image I have shared? Yes, anybody who's aware of this lady, the image which I am sharing? Okay, let me tell you. This is Bhavri Devi. She is an Indian social worker from Bhateri, Rajasthan. She was working towards prevention of child marriages. She was basically an Anganwadi worker associated with the state of Rajasthan. In 1992, she was entrusted with the responsibility of working towards elimination of child marriages from the state of Rajasthan. What happened in 1992? In 1992, Bhavri Devi came to know that in her village, that is in Bhateri, there was a family who was engaged into a child marriage of their 1-year-old daughter. In that situation, Bhavri Devi raised her voice and she met the family saying that child marriages are illegal and that the family should not enter into such crime. But the family was very adamant. They did not listen to Bhavri Devi. Bhavri Devi then took the local superintendent along with her and she tried to explain the family that whatever they are doing is illegal. It is not allowed in India. But the family, being very reluctant, they hesitated and they did not listen to Bhavri Devi at all. In spite of all her efforts, the family ended up into the child marriage and they ended up marrying their 1-year-old daughter. After that, some local villagers talked to the family and they told Bhavri Devi's whereabouts. The family was very furious on Bhavri Devi and they attacked Bhavri Devi one night. 5 men from that family brutally raped Bhavri Devi in front of her husband, who was also brutally beaten by the family members. Bhavri Devi then approached the local police station, stating whatever had happened with her. But the police station did not entertain Bhavri Devi. Rather, the women constables taunted Bhavri Devi throughout the night, like alleging her of being of loose character. The police there in the midnight asked Bhavri Devi to just move out of the police station, leaving her lehenga in the police station. Bhavri Devi did not have any other set of clothes, and so she was helpless and she had to spend the whole night in the police station. Her case was also not registered immediately. After 52 hours, Bhavri Devi was taken for medical examination where it was proved that she was not subjected to any rape. The local court also just left the crime mongers free, and Bhavri Devi did not get justice. After this, there was the Women's Committee in Rajasthan who stood by Bhavri Devi, and they filed a PIL in the Supreme Court as Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. Now, what is Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan? Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan, the Women's Committee demanded that a safe and secure workplace is a fundamental right of every woman. She should be very safe where she is working for 8 hours, and she should not be subject to such harassment at her workplace. So, the Supreme Court in the year 1997 came up with Vishakha guidelines. What were these guidelines? So, Vishakha guidelines basically stated that the responsibility if such event occurs in any organization is of the organization, that they should be concerned about the women's safety, the women employees who are working in that organization. The responsibility of their safety lies with the organization. So if a woman complains of any harassment against any person in the organization, the person definitely is responsible, but the accountability of the entire incidents goes to the institution or the organization. If the organization is failing in making their workplace secure for women, it is the organization's responsibility, and the organization would be fined heavily. They came up with legally binding guidelines where they stated that each working woman where she works, it is her fundamental right according to the Constitution of India that she should have a safe and secure working place. Her working place should promote healthy working conditions for her. It should take care of her health, mental as well as physical. The Vishakha guidelines also defined what sexual harassment meant. Then the Vishakha guidelines stated that instead of avoiding or instead of making redressal later on, it is the prevention which is very important. So the organization should focus on prevention of any such events occurring in the organization rather than later on redressal mechanism. So highlighting prevention was one of the main things which Vishakha guidelines came up with. And then a redressal mechanism, if at all any such incidences occur, there should be some redressal mechanisms which the organization should have in place. So these were the Vishakha guidelines which came into which were officially declared in the year 1997. These were legally binding guidelines, but as these were only guidelines, most of the organizations never took them seriously. Now, the POSH Act 2013. The POSH Act 2013, what happened? Like between the year 1997 and 2013, many of the organizations were simply saying that, okay, we have followed Vishakha guidelines in our organization and every woman has a safe working place with us. But it was never mandatory, and most of the organizations failed to follow all the formalities which were laid by the Vishakha guidelines. In the year 2012, there was a Nirbhaya gang rape case which happened in Delhi. Due to this, again, the entire nation was shaken. the question of women's security was again on the streets of India. And that time, the women's, like various women's committee, they went to the Supreme Court and they asked the Supreme Court that definitely the Vishaka guidelines are in place, but how many organizations are actually following those guidelines, or how many how many organizations see to it that their women employees are really safe. That time the Supreme Court realized that the guidelines were in place, but definitely the conditions are still the same. Women are still unsafe in the country. And this led to the laying of the POSH Act. The POSH Act has been made mandatory for any organization who employs 10 or more employees for working in the organization. Now 10 or more is not gender specific. So even if an organization has 10 male members, the compliance under POSH Act is mandatory for that organization. The POSH Act basically aimed at prohibition, prevention, and redressal of sexual harassment at workplace. So the POSH Act basically stated that no woman shall be subjected to sexual harassment at any workplace. Section 3, subsection 1 of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition, Redressal Act 2013. It also states that if any woman goes under sexual harassment at a workplace, that is a crime which has to be booked under the Indian Penal Code. 3 years imprisonment is mandatory for the person if the crime has been proved. Now, let us understand what does an aggrieved woman mean under the Workplace Sexual Harassment Act. So, aggrieved woman can be the working women in the organization, or she can be visiting that workplace, or she can be a student. If you see, visiting a workplace. So even if an organization says that we do not employ any women under us, or we do not have any women employees, there is always a possibility that they have a women visitor at their organization. So even if they have a women visitor, in that case, she can raise an issue of sexual harassment against that organization. So she might be working in the organization, or she might be just visiting the workplace, or she might be a student. Working covers a domestic worker. It covers regular, temporary, ad hoc, daily wage earner. She might be working for remuneration, or she might be working on voluntary basis or otherwise. She might be employed directly, or she might be employed through a contractor or an agent. She might be a contract worker. She might be a probationer. She might be a trainee. She might be an apprentice, or any other name called. So now you understand that aggrieved women, most of us CA firms, we always have articles under us, and many of the articles are girls. So when our firm has articles as girls, definitely we should be very alert that we are monitored by the POSH Act, and the POSH Act gets applicable immediately. So even if you have one woman employee, you are mandated under the POSH Act to follow all the norms which are laid down by the Act, which I'll be coming up later. So understand what is an aggrieved woman. She is working, visiting, or a student. Domestic maids are also covered under POSH. Now, what is a workplace? A workplace is defined as any place visited by the employee arising out of or during the course of employment. It covers organized and unorganized sectors as well. So any place visited by the employee arising out of or during the course of employment. It covers both organized as well as unorganized sectors. Now you can see government organizations, NGOs, nursing homes, farms, corporations, houses, companies, educational institutions, sports facilities, hospitals, cooperative societies, service providers. Everybody are covered under the POSH Act. Each of this place is considered as a workplace, and whatever rules or whatever rules are mentioned in the act, these get applicable to all these workplaces. Now, what is sexual harassment at workplace? Sexual harassment includes any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior, whether directly or by implication, namely physical contact or advance, a demand or request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal conduct of a sexual nature. So understand physical contact, demand for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, or any other unwelcome behavior. Unwelcome means unwanted or which was not pleasant for the opposite party. So any other unwelcome behavior, verbal or non-verbal, of sexual nature. So this is the definition of sexual harassment under the POSH Act. Following acts, when in relation to behavior of sexual harassment, may amount to sexual harassment: implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment in her employment, implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment in her employment, implied or explicit threat about her present or future employment status, interference with her work or creating a hostile or intimidating or offensive work environment, humiliating treatment at the workplace. So basically, if we see the first 3 points, implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment in her employment, or implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment in her employment, implied or explicit threat about her present or future employment status. These 3 types of harassment are called as quid pro quo harassment. That is, this is directly related to the career path of the women employee, or for that sake, any employee. These type of harassments, that is preferential treatment, or might be detrimental treatment, or might be threat to her future employment status, this is known as quid pro quo harassment. Next comes interference with her work or creating a hostile work environment or humiliating treatment. This is known as unfavorable working conditions or hostile work environment harassment. So basically we can see that there are 2 types of harassments. Either it is quid pro quo harassment or it is hostile or unfavorable work condition harassment. In quid pro quo harassment, we see that it is giving an employee a preferential treatment, or either giving her a detrimental treatment, or either threatening her about her future employment status. And humiliating treatment, or might be a hostile work environment, can be covered under unwanted or hostile work harassment. Next is the activity which I would ask Soham sir to conduct.
Hi Aishwarya, thank you very much. I hope everyone can see me and hear me clearly. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, this association, for inviting me, and thank you Aishwarya for allowing me to be a part of this. Quickly, I'll just tell you what I do. I work with Aishwarya on this particular topic. We use drama in sessions, and today again we'll be doing a part of it. But I'm going to start off this session, this part, with an activity. So if everybody can have a pen and paper with them, then we'll just quickly get started. So I'll give you 10 seconds, 15 seconds to quickly get yourself a pen and paper. And if we are set, all you need to do is just type yes in the comments or ready in the comments so that we'll get started. Pen or paper chahiye. That's it. All set, everyone? Okay, fantastic. All right. So while Aishwarya has been talking about this particular act and how women are harassed, I'm just going to slightly deviate from the topic, slightly go on a different path, and then come back to this topic. I'm going to start with reading out some statements, and I want you to write down the first thought that comes to your mind. The first thing that comes to your mind, I just want you to write it down. And for that, I will give you only 10 seconds. सिर्फ आपको 10 सेकंड मिलने वाले हैं. Whatever thought comes to your mind, you just need to write down either words or, if possible, a sentence. But let's be honest, so that we're going to cross check again. So the first statement that I'm going to read out to you, and you need to write down, is this. Now you are standing on the roadside. You want to cross this road. The road is almost empty, but you notice an old man on his cycle. Now, will you cross the road or wait for an old man to pass? 10 seconds. Okay, over. I'm going to go to the next statement now. The next statement I'm going to read out. You're working with an organization and you realize that for this particular month, your salary account has been credited twice. गलती से आपको 2 बार salary आ गई है. 10 seconds. Please write down your first thought.
Hello?
Okay, I'm going to go to the next statement now. This is statement number 3. I've just got a couple of more statements. Sorry, I'm troubling you with this. You are conducting an interview for a marketing and a sales role. And you know how marketing works is it's a field work. The person who will join will have to travel across several cities and meet clients, work across different teams in the organization. A very aggressive and a strong personality is needed. And while you are conducting an interview, the next candidate who walks in is a lady and she has a resume in her hand. 10 seconds. Please write down your first thought. Okay, my last statement. I'm going to go to the last statement now. A couple gets into a heated argument and they argue over a particular topic, and the argument turns extremely ugly. And one of them physically assaulted the other. Who hit whom? Who hit whom? Okay, stop. Now I'm just going to quickly ask everyone if you'd like to share your thoughts. You can unmute. I'm going to try and keep it as interactive as possible. So let's start with the first statement. It's an empty road and you see an old man on his cycle. Will you wait for him to pass or will you cross the road? Anybody would like to share? Anybody?
Yes, sir. I would.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I would love to see how he's enjoying his bicycle ride.
All right. Okay. Anybody else? That's the thought from Mr. Pradeep. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? What would you do? Will you wait or will you cross the road? And let's have a reality over here. I mean, would you otherwise wait?
Yeah, I would allow the old man to pass.
You would allow the old man to pass. Okay. How many of us would wait? Because I think if you look at real time, yeah. Why would you wait? You'll notice it's a cycle. It's not a truck. It's not a heavy vehicle towards you, right? You would quickly end up taking a decision in split seconds, and you'll cross the road. Now it's a immediate response that your brain would give you, and it ends up taking a decision in seconds. Now, if you look at the second statement, which is about a salary being credited twice, what's the first thought that would come to you?
गलती से mistake हो गया है.
You would be happy, wouldn't you? Some mistakes are better, aren't they?
Yeah.
But when you give it a thought, you would then probably, a better sense would prevail, and you would inform your HR and the accounts team. But the very first instance is you'll see, oh my God, wow, this amount is credited twice. So this has happened with me. So the very first instance, my reaction was probably I can buy whatever device or which I intended to. So your brain ends up taking a quick decision. That's the other thought to it. But when you're conducting an interview, and if you look at a very specific role like marketing and sales, many a times we feel that certain roles are gender specific, and a requirement where you need to travel, you need to visit different cities, meet clients and all. And then all of a sudden you see a lady who walks in and says, I wish to apply. You get a little, you're in a dilemma. Okay, how will she handle this? How will she be able to do this? Because that's how quickly we end up reacting. Many a times we have seen this and experienced this, and some preconceived notions, stereotypical roles, what we say, it ends up coming to us, and then we end up taking response. No, it's a marketing role, so you need a man for this job. The other day I was at a engineering college, and I wanted to connect my laptop to the projector. I quickly said, can you get some tech guy to help me with this? So a girl walks in. She says, sir, I'll help you. I said, no, I want somebody to help me. She said, I will take care of this. I know how to fit this. You don't worry. So that thing quickly in my head, where this technical is only male related or male dominated roles. That's not the case. We need to think, because POSH again, and Aishwarya would also, agree to this, that it's a gender neutral, act. And at the same time, when we think about specific roles, we always think about specific gender to it. But when I come to the next statement, which is about a heated argument, a couple having an argument and ending in a physical assault, many of us might have written that it's the man who has hit the lady. The man who has hit is probably his wife. So again, now here the scenario could be the other way around also. There have been instances where we come across where the wife has beaten the husband. But if you look at the sheer thought of hitting somebody, the possibility of physically assaulting somebody, how do you think that thought triggers? How do you think that comes to our mind? Any thoughts on that? Anybody would like to comment on why does this thought of I can hit somebody triggers in us, or I can harass somebody for that matter? Anybody? Any take on that? I can go and harass a person, and I have got that kind of courage to do that. ऐसा क्यों लगता है?
Maybe because of that gender specific masculine. अगर आप male देखो तो maybe that could be one of the factors.
Yes, and again we think that somebody who has the motive, and also if you look at I can harass somebody or I can hit somebody, probably the person who thinks in that way thinks that I am physically more stronger and I can overpower somebody, and that kind of thought. So again, this we've also have several instances where we thought that a particular person who was probably well built and all turned out to be a weaker person. Again, so this harassment part, we need to understand that how that thought triggers and why does it happen in the first instance itself. Why does we end up doing an action which shouldn't have been done in the first place. So on that note, we are moving into a small activity, and part. This is a small piece of drama that you will watch. It's a situation that is happening in an organization between two people. You are going to see Kamini and Ravi. These are two professionals working in an organization. They're working on a very complex project. And while you watch this scene again, you can notice some behaviors, things that we have been discussing so far. And about this scene in particular, Kamini is working on a project, and it's a very, like I said, it's a very difficult, very complex, stressful project, and she needs to work on a presentation which she needs to deliver at the earliest. So there's a deadline to it. She's working closely on this project with Ravi. Now Ravi is her manager, and who also is a part of this very important project. So let's watch the situation, and then we'll have a discussion around this. All right. Now, while we do this, I request everyone to switch off their camera so that you only get to see Ravi and Kamini on your screen. And I would also request Aishwarya to switch off the slide if that's possible. Okay. Thank you. All right. So let us watch the discussion between Ravi and Kamini.
Hey, hi. Hi, Ria. I won't be there in the bus today. I'm still working on the presentation. It needs to be presented to the leadership, yeah. It's really critical. So, you guys continue on in the bus. I wouldn't be there. I'll meet you tomorrow. Chal, bye.
Hi, Kamini. Finished with your project, huh?
No, Ravi, I'm just making the presentation, and I think it will take 2 more hours at least.
Wow, 2 more hours. Okay, no worries. I'm there. Just in case if you need anything, don't worry. Anything you want, I'm there.
Yeah, sure, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Listen, Kamini, by the way, we can have dinner tonight together, right? Since we both of us are there working on this, it's also very late.
Can you do me a favor? Like, it would be great if you order the dinner here itself so that I can complete my work side by side.
Okay, no problem. I'll order something online. Okay, let me do it. Oh,
Great. Finally,
wow.
dinner bhi ho gaya, and my presentation is almost ready. So good. I can leave now. Thanks for the dinner treat, Ravi.
Arre, leave? Where? What dinner treat? Oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
Kidding you? No, it was a treat, right?
No, come on, yaar. Kamini, you know me, right? See, यार इस दुनिया में कोई भी चीज फ्री में नहीं होती है यार. Come on, you know that. Nothing comes free, right? There's a price.
Also, okay, perfect. I'll pay for you, Ravi. I'll pay my contribution to you tonight. No worry. Like I'll transfer you online.
Arre, no, wait. Relax. Kamini, listen. It's been a stressful day for both of us. So let's do one thing. Now that your presentation is also almost done, why don't we go to your place and listen to some nice music, relax, and we can just chill together.
Ravi, I'm sorry, I'm going to my friend's place. Okay, Ravi, let me leave. Like, bye. Thank you. Bye. I'll meet you tomorrow.
Okay. All right, Kamini, I hope your presentation is ready for today.
Yes, it is ready. It is finally ready.
Good. So remember to deliver to the best of your abilities. This presentation is extremely important, and especially your promotion is also around, right?
Yes, Ravi. I'm also looking forward for the presentation and for my appraisals too. That's it. And Ravi, here's the money for the dinner you ordered yesterday. I'm sorry I couldn't transfer them online as it was very late and I just slept off. But here's the money for it.
Listen, Kamini, come on, yaar. I mean, what do I want money from you? I don't want money. Listen, let's do one thing. I know it's been very busy for you, especially this presentation, very stressful. Why don't after the presentation we spend some time together? Go out for dinner and then.
Ravi, listen. I'm not interested in spending time with you. I'm here for work and for my career. So please stop this.
Career, huh? Well, always remember, Kamini, इस दुनिया में कोई भी चीज फ्री में नहीं होती है ना. There's always a price for everything, isn't it?
Price.
Okay, I'll just give you everyone a minute to think about this situation, and then we'll come back with some questions for you. 1 minute to think about this situation. What happened? What do you think Kamini should do? What do you think about the behavior of Ravi? Why is Ravi acting in such a manner? Why is he behaving in such a manner? What could be the reason behind it? 1 minute to think over it, and then we'll have a discussion. Okay, and once we start with the discussion, in case if you would like to mention your or comment your opinion, here's the chat window also that you can use. You can also unmute and share your views, your answers.
So anyone who wants to share his
Yes.
answer, please raise your hand so that I can just unmute him or her.
Oh yes, yes.
Yes, so the first question is like, what action can Kamini take now? Like, first is I would like to know your thought, like what was it? And do you feel that it was sexual harassment in any case? And then what action can Kamini take now?
Yes, anybody?
Yes, let's make the session interactive. Anybody who has any say that what action can Kamini take now?
Yeah, either you can just request for unmute or I can just put it on your chat. Any of your answers.
Okay, Gracie says she said the right thing. Right. Okay. Any other thoughts? Anybody?
Yeah, she
Certainly
can report to the HR. Okay.
Yes. She could do that.
Any other point? Any other answer? There is Ketki who is saying one tight slap. Okay, perfect. I would have done that. Gracie says not necessary to report. Okay.
Okay, that's
Okay. Like Gracie, I would like to ask you, why do you feel that it is not necessary to report?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Is it
Gracie.
necessary? Why is it necessary to report?
Why is it necessary?
Okay. Why is it necessary? Okay, fine. So now, Gracie, let me tell you, like, might be it is a very subjective experience, we can say. There might be someone who feels that it is absolutely okay and it is absolutely normal that somebody is just flirting around, or somebody is just passing on nasty comments, or somebody is just passing on some nasty expectations. But there might be somebody who cannot digest this fact that at our workplace, somebody is trying to pass nasty comments, or somebody is trying to overpower us just because he or she is a manager and they want some benefits from us in spite of us working hard. Inform Ravi not to harass in first instance itself, and don't let it be repeat, is the second comment. It was to start harassment and stop the thing over there, give a warning. Okay. So perfect. So basically, Kamini has all the available options. She can report this as sexual harassment. She can also communicate to Ravi that please stop. This is not the right thing that is taking place, and she's not interested. And if at all Ravi continues with it, then she has the full right to complain to, or to lodge a complaint under sexual harassment.
Absolutely. And while Aishwarya, you're mentioning this, there's a comment right now which says that to inform your colleagues also it would be a good idea to also speak to any of your colleagues and seek support while
and seek support, seek
Certainly.
evidence or seek support.
Right. But I have another question. Do you think, if let's say the complaint is raised, can Ravi say like that he was just joking and he didn't mean to harm or threaten Kamini? Can he just say that, and would that be acceptable? Do you think if the HR or anybody would question him on why he ended up saying what he said to Kamini, and he might just end up saying, sorry, I was just joking, I had never intended it that way? Okay.
Yes, he will definitely say, but don't accept it.
He wouldn't
Okay.
accept it. Yes.
Not acceptable.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so basically under POSH Act, let me explain you that supposedly there is a complaint being raised against a fellow member of sexual harassment. The fellow member has complete rights to explain his side. He has complete rights to explain his side. He has right to say that he was being flirtatious and it was just a joke and he never intended to threaten. But the POSH Act is very specific and it says that the intention of the person doesn't matter. What matters is the impact what the person had or the person's behavior had on the other person. So in this case, the intention of Ravi might be a joke, but if Kamini has been deeply impacted, or she feels that that was unwelcoming, or she feels that it was like a threat, or she feels it was a detrimental point in her career, she can definitely raise an issue, and this would be considered as sexual harassment. So intent is secondary. What is important is the impact. What impact does it have on the person who has lodged a complaint? So whatever Ravi says, that was his point of view. But if the impact is serious and if Kamini felt it as detrimental or it was harming her career, she can raise her voice and the complaint will sustain. And Ravi's stand that he was just joking will not be acceptable in this case because it is the intent, it is the impact which is important under the POSH law and not the intent. So whatever you intend is perfectly fine, but the impact has been serious, so he would be punished under the POSH law. Now let's go to the next scenario. We can see Sumedha is a captain with the army. She has refused an offer made by a senior officer for relationship. Sumedha has kept quiet about this experience, but thanks to the rumor mongering by the senior officer, she has acquired a reputation of being a woman of a easy virtue. Now she is being subjected to repeated advances by 3 of her senior officer colleagues. When she turns around and protests, she is singled out by additional physical training. Does Sumedha have a right to complain in the above case? Yes? Anybody? Does Sumedha have a right to complain in the above case? I expect some answers, please. Yes, so Rizwan is saying, yes, she has a right to complain. Anybody else coming up with an answer?
Yes, please put in on the chat box whatever your comments are, please.
Absolutely. Prasanna is saying that she has the right because it is not the appropriate workplace. Yes, again, one more yes. So Sumedha has a right to complain because she initially refused an offer and then the senior officer created a hostile work environment for her. What he did is he spread a rumor in the circle that she was of a loose character, she was of a easy virtue. And now, when she raised a voice or when she asked for the reasoning, she was given additional physical training. So she has 100% she has a right to raise her voice and lodge a complaint of sexual harassment. Can rumor mongering be considered as sexual harassment at workplace? Absolutely yes. Rumor mongering can be considered as creating a hostile environment, that is an unpleasant work environment for anybody to work in. So let it be a woman or let it be a man or let it be a third gender. If supposedly I am a person who's harassing somebody sexually, and then if the person denies or if he is not interested, in that case, if I start spreading rumors, it is a hostile work environment for that person. He wouldn't be comfortable in working in that environment. It would definitely affect his productivity, and hence this is a sexual work harassment at workplace. I hope it's clear till now. Now we'll watch one video which will help us understand this topic furthermore.
He just put his arms around me on my shoulders and then just tried to be, I mean, he was almost over me.
तो मैंने रुकने से मना कर दिया, तो मुझे ये बोला गया कि अगर आप नहीं रुकेंगी,
Then he would make sure that I leave the organization.
Did you know that sexual harassment is a criminal offense, is punishable with imprisonment of up to 3 years?
Every organization has to follow the law on sexual harassment of women at workplace, be it big or small, and whether it has women employees or not.
An organization has to help you lodge a complaint with the complaint committee of the organization that the harasser is working, or even lodge a police complaint against the harasser if you desire.
The evaluation of sexual harassment charge depends on how a woman sees it. What matters is what you perceived and not what the harasser says he intended.
The law mandates confidentiality. This is to prevent the identification of women, harasser, witness in the public or the media.
Did you know that you need lesser proof under the law than you need to get justice under the criminal law? In this case, you need to prove only the probability, whereas under the criminal law, the proof has to be beyond reasonable doubt.
You can make a sexual harassment complaint against an organization's employee even if you don't work there. You could be anybody, a visitor, a customer, a bystander, or a job seeker, but still be able to complain.
Did you know that the law provides prompt remedy? That's because the complaint committee has to finish the inquiry within 90 days, and the 90-day period starts from when the complaint has been lodged and not from when the incident has occurred.
Yes. So this was a quick video wherein we get to know that the intention is not important, the impact is important. You can complain with the employer, your confidentiality would be preserved, it won't be made public. It is an offense under the Indian Penal Code, punishable up to 3 years. Now check your understanding. If two colleagues have gone out in their personal capacity for drinks or coffee and something untoward happens, will it fall under POSH? Now, POSH law says that if you go out with a person who's your colleague, when you're perfectly all right and you go out in a personal capacity, that is, you have agreed to go out with him, in that case, if certain incidents occurs later on, then the organization wouldn't be responsible for the incidents. If you are denying since the beginning and due to force you have to accompany that person, in that case definitely it would cover under POSH. But if you are agreeing initially, that is, if you're in a relationship with your manager, if you're in a relationship with your colleague, in that case you are going out and later on your relationship turns spoil, or might be your relation turns nasty, and then you raise a voice, then it is not covered under POSH. So if you are in agreeing conditions initially and later on you want to take back, though, then POSH law cannot come into picture. Next is, if one of the above colleague happens to be a boss and subordinate, what would it be? In that case also, if you have agreed to certain relationship and if you are taking a decision based on the agreement, in that case, the POSH law doesn't get applicable. A woman candidate is called for an interview and she is harassed by the HR manager. Can she raise a voice? Yes, she can raise a voice, because a visitor also can raise a voice for sexual harassment. She need not be employed there. A visitor or a person who has come for an interview can raise a voice. Now, let us understand what are welcome and unwelcome acts. So, any act which makes you feel bad, one-sided, powerless, unwanted, illegal, invading, demeaning, causes sadness or causes anger are all unwelcome acts. And any act which makes you feel good, which makes you feel in control, which makes you that you are treated equally, which is legal, which is open, which is crystal clear, which is appreciative, which enhances your self-esteem, are considered as welcoming acts. Now, just quickly, let's understand that the first step to prevention of sexual harassment is recognition. So any behavior which is unwelcoming or which is sexual in nature, it can be a subjective experience, like I mentioned just few lines before, it can be a subjective experience. It is the impact and not the intent what matters, and this often occurs in the matrix of power. So recognition is the first step to prevention. Once we recognize this as a sexual act, then we can actually raise a voice against it. Now, this is a case study here. This case study was Nagaram Balakrishna versus state of Andhra Pradesh. This is a very interesting case study. Here, Nagaram Balakrishnan was with the state of Andhra Pradesh as a special duty officer. A women officer under him, she alleged that he was like sexually assaulting her or sexually harassing her while she was performing duties. The case goes as follows: like Mr. Nagaram, he ordered his junior subordinate, who was also a special enforcement officer, to send him certain pictures from the mobile phone of a witness who was arrested in a liquor bottle case. Now, the mobile phone contained pictures which were of nudity, and porn pictures were there in the mobile phone. So the woman constable, she filed a complaint against Balakrishna that this was sexual harassment. But the court here said that Mr. Nagaram was just doing his official duty as he was her senior, and as they were working for the police on a special duty, which was to tap all the illegal liquor market in Andhra Pradesh. Whatever evidences had been collected by Mr. Nagaram or that junior officer were to be preserved in a compact disc that time. So Nagaram had just instructed his junior to forward those evidences to him, and he did not intend, or he did not have any other intention of watching those sexual or porn videos which were there on the mobile phone of the person arrested. Later on, it was also proved in the case that the woman constable and some local politicians wanted to demean, or they just wanted to get Nagaram out of the entire case, or they just wanted to throw Nagaram out of his position, and hence this was a trap. This was a trap which was laid against Nagaram. The court had punished the woman severely in this case because it was proved that Nagaram was not guilty, and he was just performing his duties. Now there is one more situation where where I and Soham would be entering into a drama. Soham, are you ready?
Yes. Okay, so this is about another organization wherein Prachi and Samir are discussing about
Are you there, Soham? I think we have lost Soham, so we'll continue.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So this is a situation about Prachi and Samir. They're discussing a couple of points, but at the same time, they're also talking about other colleagues, Riya and Anand, in this discussion. So I'd like you all to watch this particular situation wherein they are discussing about other colleagues in their office.
Hey Samir, did you just see what happened in the meeting?
Arey, went very well, yaar. I really liked the meeting. You know what I like about meetings is the sandwiches. The chai and the sandwich are great. I always look forward to such meetings where they get sandwiches.
No, yeah, but how does Riya communicate? Like Riya's communication with Anand is so irritating.
Arey, what's the problem in that? Listen, hello, relax. They have been officially engaged now. So,
officially engaged, right? But they are at the workplace, right? So I think these cozy comments or these unofficial comments should be avoided.
see, listen, Prachi. Anand is our team lead. Plus, they are officially engaged now. So we can't tell them anything. Na? Just learn to ignore. Na? Enjoy those sandwiches.
No, yeah, but it really bothers me. Like it's been a while that Anand just passes of Riya's work to me, and I have to work for her, and then these comments in the meetings are pathetic.
Yeah, listen, Prachi, as long as he's not getting nasty with you, just ignore. I don't think so. You should even be bothered about this. You know? We can't do anything about it. Come on, what can we do? So they are a couple now, and he's our boss. Kya kar sakte? Achha, by the way, did you try speaking with Riya about this?
I told her a couple of times, yeah, but she doesn't take it. She doesn't take it seriously. It's become irritating. Too much of bothering.
You know, can I give you a piece of advice?
Yes.
Ignore and enjoy the sandwiches.
Ignore? Oh, come on.
Chalo, I have to go. There's a call lined up. Bye.
Sure. So now you saw that Riya and Anand are the couple in the department, and their comments or their public display of affection is creating a hostile work environment. So in this case, Riya has in this case, Prachi has full right that she can complain to the IC. Now, what is an IC? We will see in the next slide. So let me come to the internal committee. So what is an IC? Internal committee, the law provides that any organization that has 10 or more employees must constitute an internal committee to receive and redress complaints on sexual harassment at workplace. So if an organization has 10 or more employees, irrespective of the gender, they should form a committee to receive the complaints and act as a redressal mechanism for those complaints. Now, who will be the presiding officer? Who will be the members? Let's see. There will be one presiding officer in the committee. The presiding officer has to be a lady in the organization who's on a senior position. Now, if supposedly there is no lady in the organization and it is only a male-oriented organization, in that case, some male member who's on the senior position can be a presiding officer. There should be two other members from the employees. Now, from these two members, one should be a female. Again, if there is no female in the organization, definitely two male members can form a part of the committee. And one external member is mandatory. Now, what external member can be a member who has knowledge on POSH, or who is a POSH consultant, or who has been working for women's rights with any NGO, or any person who has knowledge on laws can be an external member. So minimum four members are mandatory. One is a presiding officer, next two other members from the employees, and one is an external member. Preferably the presiding officer and one out of the two other members should be females, and the external member definitely is a female. Now, what happens if we do not constitute an IC? What happens if we are repeat offenders? And what is the court approach for the same? If we do not constitute an IC, the organization might be penalized up to ₹50,000. So, if there is a surprise visit in any of our clients' organizations where there are 10 or more employees, and we see that there is no, and the committee, the surprise visiting committee, the Women's Department of Maharashtra or the Women's Committee of Maharashtra sees that there is no IC in place, there is no POSH policy in place. In that case, the business is fined up to ₹50,000. Now, if this offense, that is non-constitution of IC, and no POSH policy in place for that organization, in that case, if it becomes a repeated offense, the penalty is that the registration of the business can be terminated. The government has complete rights to terminate the business registration and the related licenses through which the business has been performing. So first is the monetary penalty, that is of 50,000. Next is termination of all your business licenses. And third is you may be fined, you may be considered as a criminal under the Indian Penal Code, and you may be imprisoned for a period of 3 years. Now, what is a local complaint committee? A local complaint committee basically is for those organizations where the employee strength is less than 10. So supposedly an organization has 5 female employees with them, but the total employee strength doesn't go beyond 10. In that case, they need not form an internal committee, but if any female employee, or if any employee in their organization face sexual harassment, they can complain to the local complaint committee. Now, the local complaint committee is basically formed by the district officer, that is the collector of each district. He will form the local complaint committee with the help of few workers or women workers who are working for the cause of women. Why is the LCC formed? Like I mentioned, there are cases where women employees, or the total number of employees, are less than 10. So where will these people raise their voice? That is the reason LCC, that is the local complaint committee, is formed. This committee is specific for each district. For whom LCC is formed? For women's, or for women who do not have an IC committee in place in their organization, or domestic maids or visitors in an organization, or employees who have left the organization but still want to raise a voice, they can raise a complaint to the LCC. Now, what are the powers of the IC? Power of civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure have been granted to the IC. They can summon or enforce attendance. They can examine on oath. They require the discovery and production of documents, that is the evidences. They can terminate or decide ex parte that the proceedings if the complainant or respondent fail to appear for inquiry or proceedings. So summoning and enforcing attendance, examining on oath, requiring the discovery and production of documents, termination or decide ex parte the proceedings if the complainant or respondent fail to appear for inquiry or proceedings. Now, somebody had asked me a question in the chat box that if somebody raises a false complaint, will the person be punished? Yes, if the IC finds that the complainant or the person who has raised the complaint has raised a false complaint with some other selfish motive, in that case, whatever punishment or whatever the IC would decide for the person who has committed sexual harassment as per the complaint, that punishment can be get applicable to the person who has raised the complaint. So if it is a false complaint, termination of employment is possible, or the person who against whom the complaint has been raised, he can sue the person in the court of law. So whatever be the case, if anybody tries to misuse the POSH law, then the person can be definitely punished. IC roles and responsibilities. Prevention, prohibition, and redressal is the main role. So prevention of such events from happening, receiving complaints, taking immediate actions, investigating objectively, document findings, recommending actions, facilitate conciliation in accordance to law, create awareness amongst the employees, and annual report to the district officer. So basically the IC responsibility is to make the employees aware that the organization is free from sexual harassment, conduct training programs, facilitate try and facilitate some midway between the harassee or the person against whom the complaint has been raised and the person who has raised a complaint. Then filing of the annual report to the district officer. So basically this annual report is mandatory for every organization having 10 or more employees. They have to file this annual report in the month of December. It is a calendar year and not a financial year which is followed under POSH. So in the month of December, before 31st of December every year, the organization has to submit a report to the district officer. The report should state the number of complaints received, if any, during the year, what actions were taken on those complaints received, and the IC committee details. The external member details should go to the district officer. Term of IC, each member has to hold an office for 3 years from his nomination. So each IC member has the right to hold office for 3 years from the date when he gets nominated as a IC member. What is a She Box? A She Box is an initiative by Ministry of Women and Child Development. An online complaint management system is what the government intends for the She Box. All the government and non-government employees can raise a voice through the She Box. Now, who can file a complaint? A complaint can be filed by the by the aggrieved person or by the person who has faced sexual harassment. Supposedly, in case the person who has faced sexual harassment is physically incapacitated to file a complaint, in that case, the complainant's relative, complainant's friend, co-worker, any officer of any like NGO or any person who has the knowledge of the incidents can file the complaint. The complaint has to be in a written form only. A oral complaint or a voice message would not be entertained. It should be a written form, and if it is filed by some representative, then there should be a consent of the complainant to allow the other person to file a complaint on her or his behalf. Similarly, if the complainant is mentally incapacitated, then the complainant's relative, complainant's friend, special educator, psychologist, psychiatrist, guardian, or any person who has the knowledge of such an act can file a complaint. If a person has died due to sexual harassment, her or his legal heir can also file a complaint. And supposedly, due to stress or might be due to fear, the person is not able to file a complaint. In that case, any other person who has reasonable knowledge and evidence of that incident can file a complaint, but he or she should have a written consent from that person who has faced sexual harassment. Who can file a complaint? Any aggrieved employee or a visitor or a member may register the complaint for himself or herself or on behalf of another employee, visitor under special circumstances as illustrated below, in case of physical incapacity, in case of mental incapacity, or for any other reason. So we just covered that right now. The most important point here is complaint should be lodged within 3 months from the date of the incidents or 3 months from the date of the last incident in case of subsequent incidences. So 3 months, that is 90 days, is the time limit to file any complaint. So supposedly an employee comes up after 6 months, then that complaint wouldn't be entertained. So 3 months is the time limit. We can see a small video here on who can raise a complaint.
পাবেল ভাই আপনার একটা সিগনেচার লাগতো।
আরে শালা নাকি? আপনার কথাই ভাবছিলাম। সিগনেচার পরে হবে। আগে বলেন আজকে অফিসের পরে কি কাজ আপনার?
সিগনেচার প্লিজ।
তুমি কিন্তু চাইলে খুব সহজেই কমপ্লেইন করতে পারো।
চাটা কিন্তু অতটাও খারাপ হয়নি।
আমি চায়ের কথা বলছি না।
শুধু শুধু কথা পারবে, ঝামেলা হবে, উল্টো আমি কি নাকি বিপদে পড়ি।
কি আজকাল সাইন টাইন লাগে না?
তুমি কি তাহলে পাবলিক এগেইনস্টে সেক্সুয়াল হ্যারাসমেন্টের অভিযোগ আনতে যাচ্ছ? ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু খুব সিরিয়াস।
এত বছর এখানে থেকেও এত বড় অপমান কে কে অভিযোগ করেছে আমার বিরুদ্ধে? দেখি তো, সাহস থাকলে দেখি।
অন্যায় দেখে প্রতিবাদ না করলে আমরাও সমান অপরাধী। সহকর্মী, বন্ধু বা সহযাত্রী, আপনি যেই হন না কেন, আপনার সোচ্চার প্রতিবাদ থামিয়ে দিতে পারে নারীর প্রতি অন্যায়। নীরব না থেকে পাশে দাঁড়ান।
Yes, so you can see here in the video, though the language is different, but we can make it out that anybody who has knowledge about the incidents can file a complaint on behalf of the person who's suffering here. What is the redressal timeline? The complaints committee must complete the inquiry within 90 days from the date of receipt of the complaint. A final report should be submitted to the employer or the district officer, as the case may be, within 10 days thereafter. A copy of the report will also go to the concerned parties. The employer or the DO is obliged to act on the recommendations within 60 days of receipt of the report. So 90 days is the maximum time limit where the complaint committee should act, and they should submit a report within next 10 days after the 90 days. The report will also go to the concerned parties, and the employer is under an obligation to work according to the recommendations of the IC. Penalties. So the penalties can be up to 50,000 for failure to form an IC, failure to act upon the recommendations of the IC, failure to file an annual report to the district officer, or contravening any provisions of the Act. Supposedly, the offense continues repeatedly and the IC is not formed, then cancellation of the business license can also take place. Imprisonment is also possible under the POSH Act. So, hereby I end my presentation. I would like to show a small video on women empowerment and end my presentation for today.
This is how fast YouTube is with Brave. Notice how there's no pre-roll ads? And here's how you can see
न वक्त ने कहा रुकने के लिए, न कदमों ने कहा थमने के लिए, तो क्यों रुक जाऊं मैं, जब चलते जाना मुझे पसंद है, इस जमीन पे मेरा भी हक है।
पलकों पे सपने सजाए, चल पड़े हैं हम देखना, उम्मीदों को पंख लगाए, उड़ रहे हैं हम देखना, हौसले भर दिल में अपने जीत जाएंगे, बंदिशें अब तोड़ सारी मुस्कुराएंगे, लो करते हैं वादा हम अपने आप से, मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है, बदलाव की रुत है, रुत है, रुत है, मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है, बदलाव की रुत है, रुत है, रुत है।
ना सूरज ने छोड़ा रोशन करना, ना बारिश ने मुझे भिगाना, तो क्यों ना खिलखिलाऊं मैं, जब जिंदगी जीना मुझे पसंद है, खुश रहने का मुझे भी हक है। ना आईने ने मुंह मोड़ा, ना कभी मैंने अपना साथ छोड़ा, तो क्यों ना खुद को रिझाऊं मैं, जब ये रंगो रौनक मुझे पसंद है, मुझ पे सिर्फ मेरा ही हक है।
वक्त आया है बढ़ते कदमों से कदम हमको मिलाना है। दिल में जज्बा है हर एक ख्वाहिश को अब पूरी कर दिखाना है। कुछ गिरते कुछ संभलते मंजिल पालेंगे। कह दो जहां से हर ख्वाब सच कर देंगे। लो कर लो तुम इकरार अपने आप से। मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है। मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है।
मेरे शब्दों ने नहीं कहा कि मुझे मत चुन, ना मेरे ख्वाबों ने कहा कि मुझे मत बुन। तो क्यों ना सपने देखूं मैं जब उनके लिए लड़ना मुझे पसंद है। क्यों चुप रहूं मैं जब आवाज़ पे मेरा भी हक है। हाँ, मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है।
मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है। मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है। मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है। मुझ पे मेरा ही हक है, हक है, हक है बदलाव की ये रुत है, रुत है, रुत है।
Yes, so in case like anybody has any questions, you can definitely contact me on my mobile number as well as my email ID. And I'm ready to answer any questions if we have any right now as well.
Yeah.
I'll paste my details in the chat box. Yes, so I'm open to questions.
Yeah, wonderful session, Aishwarya ji. Very wonderful session. I would request anyone, if you have any questions, you can put on the chat box and you can just take some questions. There is one comment like all the CAs should have a local complaints committee. A very important input. Yeah, great. Definitely.
Absolutely. We can think of having a complaint committee in our institute, might be centrally or at branch level as well.
Yes.
And when we see an annual report of any company, we can see that in the director's report, each director makes a statement that his place is safe and secure for every employee to work. But then they do not understand what safe and secure means. It means that they are covered by the POSH Act and they have all the requirements of the POSH in place. But whenever I tend to visit companies, most of the directors are unaware and then they start working towards setting up the compliance for the POSH Act. So like I would request all the CAs here to ask their directors or to ask their corporate clients to get POSH implemented as soon as possible, because just last month, the Women's Committee of Maharashtra has declared that they would they would have surprise visits for every organizations. And if they see that the POSH is not being implemented in the organization will be subjected to penalties, which includes imprisonment or cancellation of licenses and monetary penalties in up to for 50,000.
Yeah. Anyone, please put in your comments or your feedbacks on this chat box. This will be a great way to thank Aishwarya ji for the wonderful session that we have started this for the women's. So please put in your comments, your feedbacks, and just thank Aishwarya ji for the sessions. But if you have any questions, you can just put in. Let's appreciate the time she has taken out and to educate all of us on this very important topic. So please put in your feedbacks.
Awesome session, very informative. Thank you so much.
There's a question.
Absolutely. You mean in most of the directors' reports in companies' annual accounts have the compliance section without the knowledge of the directors signing it? Absolutely. That is very evident. Whenever I visit companies and whenever I see their directors' report and I ask them for their IC details, they say that what is IC? Like, we are not aware of what is IC, or what is POSH, we are not aware. And then I have to tell them that they have signed a document which says that they have implemented a workplace which is free from sexual harassment, but they have not complied with any of the requirements. Absolutely new area of practice. Yes. I would request everybody just to turn on their cameras so that I can just have a group photo. Please turn on your cameras, everybody.
Aishwarya, there's some question here.
Okay.
Should the educational institutions have POSH committee? Is POSH and grievance committee?
Absolutely. Educational institutes also have to have POSH committees, and there are a set of different guidelines which form under UGC.
Okay.
So POSH guidelines are there, and there are other set of guidelines basically for students as well, which come under POSH. So educational institutes are also mandatory. That is also mandatory for each educational institution to form a POSH committee. Grievance committees, POSH and grievance committee, the same. IC committee, that is the internal complaint committee, that is the POSH committee. So if the colleges have formed a grievance committee, no, that is not the same committee. IC committee has to be a different set of people and a different their work structure, or might be their role is different altogether. Grievance can be the grievance related to anything, like supposedly I'm not getting a clean toilet in the workplace, then I can raise a grievance. Or I'm not getting some facility in my workplace, I can raise a grievance. But for sexual harassment, IC is a different committee altogether, which is mandatory. So grievance and POSH committee are different entities altogether. If the act is gender neutral, why all the authorities are women centric? Okay, good question here. The act, if you see, the POSH Act is basically for women. The POSH Act has been laid for the safety of women. But these days, if you see, we are becoming gender neutral. Most of the organizations are following a gender neutral policy. We have the third gender in place as well. So in that case, what I do is, or what I suggest my clients is, we can draft a policy where we are gender neutral. So any male can also raise a complaint under POSH. A third gender can also raise complaint under POSH. But the committee or the constitution of the committee has to be in accordance with law. And law states that the woman should be the presiding officer. So we have to follow the law, but we can have a policy which is gender neutral. Have I answered the question?
There's one more question.
Ma'am, CA firms having more number of employees should have IC and comply with this act. Absolutely. If your firm has 10 or more employees, you should have a IC in place. You should inform the district officer that you have a IC in place, and you should submit the annual report to the district officer. You should be having a IC meeting once a year wherein you appoint an external member. You should create trainings, or you should conduct trainings for awareness for your employees. So this all is mandated under the POSH Act.
Very good. Any other questions? I think most of you have children at home and they have been attending this, online classes. Imagine करो आपके बच्चे को बच्चे अटेंड करिए, मिस टीचर अटेंड क्लास ले रहे हैं और बच्चे सब ब्लैंक है, ऐसा विंडोज बंद है, किसको पढ़ाएंगे? Okay, so I would just request again, at least for this last.
There's one more question. Does it apply to social clubs where there is no employer-employee relationship? Now, but the social club is a formal entity. Now, in this case, supposedly I am visiting a social club, as in say the Rotary Club or might be the Pune Club. And the thing is, the Pune Club definitely needs to have a committee in place for themselves, because they have so many visitors who are coming in that club. So definitely they should have a committee. Now, when I am a visitor, I have a choice whether to contact the committee's POSH, the club's POSH committee, or should I raise a complaint with the local complaint committee with the district. So clubs should have a committee in place, but the visitor or the person who has faced sexual harassment has an option here whether to go to the local complaint committee of the district or whether to approach the club's committee. And listen, like employer-employee relationship is nowhere mandatory here. It is just mandatory that in the organization sexual harassment has taken place. So if a person has come in for an interview, he or she is not your employee anyways. She has just appeared for an interview. So in that case, she is a visitor. And then a visitor has a right to raise a voice against sexual harassment. So employer-employee relationship is not mandatory anyways. Will there be any penalty to social club if there is no committee? Absolutely. There can be a penalty, 50,000 plus termination of licenses. This can take place.
We will take the last question if there's any, and then we can come to the conclusion part. Anyone? Okay, great. So thank you, Aishwarya ji. What a wonderful session you took on this. Starting of this week, we are starting with wonderful Wonders of Women Week, and you took it a very important topic, which is applicable for most of all of us. And it was a very apt topic, and you took it very on a district language. So thank you so much again. Now I request.
I would like to have a group photo, please, before
yeah, please,
the end.
At least उतना request आप लोग सबसे है. At least speaker बोल रहे थे, उतना speaker के लिए आप just please respect the speaker's request. You just open your windows for a group photo. कौशिकगढ़ा बहुत सारे हैं, so जो कोई भी कौशिकगढ़ा है तो please open your windows.
अभी कौशिकगढ़ा नंबर कर दीजिए, कौशिकगढ़ा नंबर 1, कौशिकगढ़ा नंबर 2, कौशिकगढ़ा नंबर 3.
Yes. Great.
Yes.
Rahul Shah, Mahesh Goreji, Rahul Madan, we'll just have one group photo, please.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. आपका हो जाए तो बता देना, फिर दूसरा स्क्रीन पे जाते हैं.
Okay, I'll take the photo. Just a moment. Yes, we'll go to the next screen.
Next screen में कोई नहीं है, विश्वनाथ सर ही है.
Okay, fine.
Great. So before we conclude, I would request Pradeep Mehta, a committee member, to officially offer a vote of thanks to the speaker, and also Soham Dadarkar. He's been very helpful in this act, performing this act. Thank you so much. Yes, Pradeep.
Thank you, Kaushik sir, for offering me this opportunity to have the wonderful vote of thanks to both of the speakers, Miss Aishwarya ma'am and Mr. Soham sir. Ma'am, you took to the new arena of the practice. First of all, I was not aware that this kind of practice is also there in the practice for the CAs available in the market. And it was really nice to hearing you. One of the most happening topic in this today's time in the modern world, where we face such kind of the things where we do not come to know actually this kind of the things with like due to the social media and all those things. I just wish कि जो आपके लिए what happened to you and to take this kind of practice जो आपके साथ वो किसी और के साथ भी नहीं हो, लोग इसी तरह इस पे प्रैक्टिस करना स्टार्ट करें. And one of the finest things what you said is कि आपकी किसी करीबी के साथ ये सब हुआ था. I think so, right, ma'am?
Yes, my very close colleague.
I don't wish कि किसी के साथ भी हो और उसके बाद कोई जागे. First of all, I would request कि women CS would start practice. मतलब ये this is one kind of practice they can think of, and it was nice.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Som sir, you were wonderful in the giving the illustrations and all those things. It's really nice of the topics. I think so. Every branch of the institute should take such kind of sessions frequently to prevent the such kind of malpractices being practiced in the day-to-day offices and small offices. CA offices maybe ये बहुत होता है and all those kind of things. And I think so. This session will create more and more awareness among the participants. And I wish कि Aishwarya ma'am, thanks for coming on our call and आप ऐसे ही frequently आते रहिए. It would be nice.
Sure.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah, it would really nice. I would like to offer a sincere vote of thanks to both of speakers, Soham sir and Aishwarya ma'am. By this, I think so. I'll hand over back to the Kaushik sir. Yes.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya ji. I would request everyone to please thank the speakers on the chat box to let them know the comments that you really enjoyed the topics. Thank you so much. And then we'll end the topic. We'll end the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Means a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you.